Got about 300 on me. That ain't no Hellcat, that's a 300 on me. Got your bitch playing halfback, why she running from me? John Elway behind the center, shotgunning, homie. Squeaky clean, ain't no dirt on me. Hey coach, you better advise your team or you gon' get your player hurt, homie. My youngins hot boys tryna ice this like Turk on me. Fix your face, why when I'm around you gotta smirk, homie? Stan Pablo, niggas know I be trippy drippy. Better tie your shoes up.
Relationship will always go much further than what a link will. Always be mindful that a link will expire. A great friendship will expire because those friendships, they mature, and the maturation of those things lead to several different historic events. Yes. Of friends meeting. Quincy Jones meeting Michael Jackson goes on to create Thriller. Goes on to continue to create magical things, man. So we have to understand that. Yeah, it's okay. Like, yo, I sent you my mixtape. Did you get it? Download my damn. That's cool because that's the times, and you must change with the times, or the times will change on you.
Back then you had MySpace.
Yeah, man. You just have to work, man. The hand-to-hand experience, building relationships, building friendships, and creating a way. But also, like we said, you must study.
Yes, that's what we spoke about. Real touch on that. Cause before you can get into this, you gotta know where this came from. You can't jump in there because you put out, like you say, false prophets and all that, and people is chasing the next big thing that really ain't what's supposed to be followed. Touch up on that.
You must study, man. And
what did you study? Should I say, excuse me?
My biggest influences, some of these things, man, are guys like, Too Short, guys like MC Hammer, guys like Andre Nicotina, Mac Dre, and then just not the independent guys. You definitely have the Diddy's and the Russell Simmons, the Leo Coyens, some of these guys that are very influential in their respective fields. Mm-hmm. You have to see what was the groundwork that made them who they are, and what differentiates a person going from this level to that level.
Those relationships play a big part in it.
All of these things, their grinds, their relationships, and what was detrimental in some of those guys plummet from those top spots. You look at a Dame Dash, and everyone talks bad about Dame Dash, but everybody needs a Dame Dash.
True, but what do you think maybe the downfall in that? We know the whole situation with selfishness playing a part in certain demise of
I wasn't personally involved in that situation, so I can never say that selfishness was it. Mm-hmm. No one knows what it was.
Like I said.
All we can do is make opinions, and we can sit here and we can talk about opinions of what went wrong, how it went wrong. What was obvious and what was noticeable is that he went from being the behind-the-scenes brains behind the situation to a guy who wanted to be more so on the physical front, and that kind of caused a little confusion between Jay and he. And this is all from my personal perspective. No one knows if this is Stone. It's just an opinion of saying, okay, if Dame would have stayed in the back and would have been the brains and fighting for it on the back end, would they still be going what it is? But everybody needs a Dame Dash. Everyone needs the early Dame Dash, the Dame Dash that says, why doesn't that coach say DopEra? Why does it say Def Jam? Everybody needs that.
So in a sense, that's motivation.
You have to.
It could be a drive.
How could you not be? How could you not admire a person like Dame Dash in those early stages, where he was the only one that believed in?
I mean, you could not admire him, but in a sense, but if you the person on the end of that tongue lashing where he talking, Wild Reckless to, you can see probably frustration with people that be like, man, damn,
they can say Dame's an asshole, but you need assholes.
That's what it comes down to.
I mean,
you
have
to
balance each other out. You can't have so many good guys. You gotta have somebody that has that structure that's actually going to, with that last, like he said, that's going to make sure that brand has, whether it's DopEra, Hardline, mine, UMG, you want to make sure that you have somebody that's on top of that. Kind of going with what we were saying, Mr. Fab. As far as the grind, though, you started. When you started, was you first signed with Mac Dre, or
no,
did you?
I did a whole album with a guy named EB, and EB was a guy in the neighborhood who was a local producer around here. He was a guy who had some of the younger guys in my area in North Oakland. He was mentoring these guys, and he had a studio in his home, and his hustle was relentless. He was creating projects for people and pressing up projects and pressing up CDs, and the manuscript that he laid down was a great blueprint on how to be independent. He would show us how to get up and go out and go network and go shake hands and go meet several people and build these relationships. And I did a project with him fresh out of high school. I actually was still in high school, and we dropped the project. That project later got into the hands of Jazzy Jim, who was a program director of 94.9 at that time. He heard some of this stuff. We got a chance to get a meeting with him. The energy was great. He created an opportunity for me to record that album right there, the Nigg Latin album. And that Nigg Latin album, Jazzy Jim put everything behind that for me, and he gave me a platform to make a name for myself. We didn't sell any records, like we didn't sell a miraculous amount of records. We didn't do no streaming, you know, back then it wasn't any streaming or anything like that. It was just, you know, hand in hand. But what it did was it gave me an opportunity to say, you know, I got a project, listen to it, tell me what you think. And we would do that, several, you know, grinding shows, free shows, doing things like that. My cousin, who just actually left, I don't know if he's still here, but Desmond, aka Nucci. Nucci is my mom's sister's son. So my first cousin was managing Mac Dre at the time, and he was just like, "Yo, cuz, we trying to build this label." And I showed Dre some of your stuff, man. He feeling your stuff. You want to come rock with us? And I was like, "Cool, man." You know, we had a chance to meet up. Dre came to my mama's house, bought some weed from my mom. We kicked it, lounge, you know. We chilled and, you know, in the studio, got in the studio, and it was just, to me, it was an opportunity. We created Son of a Pimp, and, you know, from there, Mistah Fab, you know, things began to unfold for me.
Was you watching a lot of his business moves also, as far as behind the scenes of Mac Dre building that label?
No, I actually didn't really worry about the business at that time.
Okay.
I think the intricacies of the business was something I wasn't interested in. I was only interested in rapping. You know, I just wanted to rap. I just wanted to be heard. Like a lot of people, some people just want an opportunity to be heard.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was given an opportunity to be heard. And that's what my focus was. My focus wasn't about, oh, let's sign this contract. Yo, let me have my lawyer look at this. And, you know, we should always be mindful of those things. And no funny business went down, anything like that. It was always a great situation and an outlet.
It was a good time for us. Like, I know he was battle rapping.
It was great times.
Beautiful times.
It was great times because you approach things with ambition and motivation. And anytime ambition and motivation mixes with creation, the things that you can cultivate becomes beautiful. And I was a kid, and still to this day, I'm still a kid living in my creations. I'm a Peter Pan, you know. I never want to leave Neverland. And if we never leave Neverland, then that means we'll always be lost in our creations. We're lost in our imaginations, and we can continue to keep working.
Oh, yeah, nah. We know, like,
So from the grind of Mac, watching how Mac Dre actually structured, you said you wasn't so much on the business side, but the putting out music, consistency.
That was what we keyed in on.
Okay.
I was marveled at his ability to constantly keep working, no matter what. He was always reinventing himself.
Were you always writing?
Yes, definitely. I always wrote. I started writing at 11 years old when I found out my father was diagnosed with AIDS, and I was my mother's only child, and I had no one to really talk to about how I was feeling and the eeriness of trying to figure out what AIDS actually was at that time in 93, 92. All we knew was, you know, Eazy-E around that time, just, you know what I'm saying, Magic Johnson, and it was just like, wow, like, what is this? So I began writing small soliloquies and small poems and haikus and other forms of expression with the pen, and I developed an art for writing. I will always continue to write. It's always bigger than rap. So yeah, I was writing, but I was just marveled at how Dre was able to reinvent himself on every project. Every project he was able to do this. It might have been Dre Van Halen, might have been Ronald Reagan, or might be Dre Magazine, however he was feeling, but he had a personality for every feeling of how he felt. And as an artist, he was just very creative. So to me, that was dope to never get stuck in a box to where someone can say, "Oh, you're this kind of rapper." You know, just keep evolving, keep growing.
So we was talking we was watching the Pop video and all that. So do you think like his drive and all that was just as much as, you know, historically we hear about Pop, like you firsthand in the studio, you know, Dre and all that, was like his drive and all that to get music pushed out, did it seem as if it was like that?
Pac was a different kind of individual, man. And like I said, I wish I would have personally known him.
Yeah.
But Pac was always in creative arts, performance schools. He was meant to do that. He was meant to do the dramatization, class, movies. You know, Pac was a superstar before he became a super rap star. He was a movie star. You know what I mean? Above the rim, he dropped his right. He was already a movie star. He was like, he had been, you know, he had already been to the level of, he was huge. And his ability to write, he was very opinionated about what was going on in the world. And in this music, you can hear that. From one music, he could talk about, I wonder why they call you a bitch. Then he could talk about my letter to the president. Then he could talk about a message to my unborn child.
Different roles, different characters.
Yeah, it's just your mind state. A young guy, you gotta think, he hadn't lived long enough to manifest his true power.
24,
25 years old.
25. You touched on something that I gotta elaborate on. You said letter to the president. You just kind of pinned at yourself. What went behind that? Because can I say this? You always say a lot of facts. You always say a lot of things that come to fruition. Rather, a couple years ago, me and you talking about the Warriors, which we'll get in, but you said something that kind of, I'm like, why would they do that? You said, watch. But when it comes to the politics, for you to actually pen this letter to the president, what made you and what was the mind frame behind it at that time? Because it was something that you just came out and, hey, this is what it is.
It was definitely inspired by Tupac's song Letter to the President.
Oh.
That's why I use a Tupac line in there. They have money for wars, we can't feed the poor. I put that in there. The power's in the people and the politics that they address. And if you don't address politics, then you're not accessing your power. You're not rallying the troops to fight for something that's serious. People will go out and they'll go fight for a gang. They'll go fight for frivolous things and meticulous things that mean nothing in the grand scheme of things. You'll argue over whose block it is. You'll argue where someone is from and the validity of their upbringing. You'll argue over
where your grandma stayed.
You know, certain things like this. But you won't fight for a real cause. You won't fight for rent control in your city that has the homeless rate going through the roof. You won't fight for the changing of police brutality. You won't fight for laws and judicial systems that affect us.
Is that because of something like your outtake, me personally, is that you're not afraid of, first of all, losing anything and you stand for what you believe in? A lot of these rappers be afraid, whether it's sponsorships, whether it's corporate behind them. You've always been the type that was going to speak your mind, regardless of the backlash, and not to bring up anything old, but everything's come from fruition, even with you having the controversy with the radio station, being able to kind of bridge that gap and come back around. But you never has been afraid to go outside that box and take chances. Is that, like you said, because of that strong belief and also you growing up in the dope era, so you knowing how, from the politics, the Black Panthers and things like that, is that why you're not afraid to take those chances and kind of say, well, you know what, this might keep me from doing this, or this person might want to book me?
I just like standing on real principles, morality, and integrity. And if my morality and my integrity will cost me certain things, the sacrifice of that mediocre success is my tie to society. And we all must pay ties to society. No matter how much you change in the future, there's a debt that you still owe to your past. So your ties to your society of what it is that you're willing to sacrifice for the furthering of your perspective.
Do you think some of these like new artists are infatuated with that quick success that you spoke of?
I can't say what's infectious to a lot of new artists. I'm not these people, so I can't put what they see and what their perspective is. I think a lot of people try to always label what other people are doing. I can't be responsible for what anyone else does outside of myself until I'm responsible of myself. And what I know is I can continue to spew great advice, good advice, lead by my personal experiences, to those who are willing to listen, and hopefully they will be influenced to make better decisions if the decisions that they're making are in question. So I can't talk about anything that these young guys are doing, because behind every decision that is being made, there's been something that has made them see things that way.
The influence.
What's done that?
I mean, that's one of the songs that you got that's my favorite, and I'm mad that, you know, that Kendrick Lamar song that you and Kendrick got, and it had a review, and I want to say this at the U.S. Times, well, I mean, it was a good review that you got on that song. I asked you, why don't you push that one more for people? Because again, Fab, one thing about you, your voice speaks loud. I don't know about anybody else, but going back to what you said when you took your daughter to Japan, put $20 a day, you guys can accomplish this too. Me and my daughter doing that. So again, the things that you do, you influence some people. That video, me personally think is something that should have had a visual out. Is it a reason behind that, or because again, a lot of songs that I feel like are good, great songs, but songs that I feel like can be a fruition for everybody to actually grasp off of it doesn't be heard. But yet still we got good reviews from top political people, magazines, or things like that.
Well, the review was from Rolling Stone.
Rolling Stone, there we go.
And it was a great review.
Yes.
I reached out to the writer, and it was a great review. That's actually one of my favorite records. We all know when we did that record, it was a dope record, man. And man, I don't think many people saw in the early stages Lil Bruh growing and blowing up like that. You know, so to see where Kendrick Lamar is now is insane.
Yes.
And it's just tracking him down and being more so like, yo, okay, let's shoot this video. You know, he's arguably one of the most in-demand artists to get. Always on the road, always going. So, you know, if the opportunity presented itself or presents itself, I would love to shoot a video with him. I would love to create a vision for them, or if not, to have some type of computer digital cartoon like video of it or some sort. That song is very powerful, and I don't think that the world has heard the last of that. I think that song will be one of those records that will be around a long time, and people will go back on that and be like, yo, this is crazy.
And I can remember you actually going over some of those songs. This was back in 2012 when we were at your studio, and just the body of work that you have put in that album, man, I want to tell you personally, great job, because again, you told us, you said, I'm not putting this album out just to put it out. When I put it out, the time's going to be right. And I remember that fruition. Also, that's why I congratulated you, like, tremendously on that. For me to tell my son, people don't understand it. I'm a hip-hop fan. I consider you hip-hop. I don't consider you a rapper. See, people get this twisted. We have this argument. You can't put you in the category of a rapper because you're not. You have different aspects. So when I say platinum artist that has written this, that's kind of dope for me. But do you think the mind frame of a lot of people just want you, they just consider you a battle rapper or a rapper, not hip-hop? I want to say legend, but hip-hop for us, legend.
People refer to you as what they're comfortable with accepting you as. Several people will say hip-hop artist, some will say a battle rapper, some will say a hyphy rapper. Whatever makes people comfortable. In my eyes, I know who I am. I'm comfortable in my own skin. I never try to go out and try to prove anything to anyone. At the end of the day, I'm just Stanley. I'm a writer, I'm an author, a visionary, philanthropist. There's several different titles, but I don't get lost in the title because it's only so much in the name. I am who I am, and whatever a person feels comfortable with referring to me as, if that helps their perspective and keeps their mind what it is, I'm okay.